Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryan Karavavahai Tejasvinapadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. You. The chapter Light of Wisdom is moving after explaining action and emotion. Now he is moving to wisdom. How wisdom is going to help you in terms of your evolution. First, he explained how action will help you to evolution, emotion to evolution, and now wisdom to evolution, knowledge to evolution. Now, this chapter is more philosophical in nature. As a result, it would be less appealing to the masses. Unlike the chapter Action and Emotion, the chapters studying about action, studying about emotions are more appealing to people. But it is rare to find people to connect because it is difficult to relate to reality, to truth. Because by nature, truth, reality is beyond your comprehension. You can't relate to it. You can't relate to that supreme reality straight away. And Vedanta straight away proclaims, as soon as the student comes, the first thing told to the student is that the what? You are that supreme reality. And it's almost impossible for a student to comprehend it. That is why this knowledge is not given to everyone. It's given to a chosen few people. Because you need certain qualifications to study the subject. What's the qualification? The qualification is that what they say is mumukshatva, essentially. Apart from other qualifications like, viveka, vairagya, and all those things, what is essential is the mumukshatva, a burning desire for liberation, to get liberated, to get out of this bondage that I am in. You need to have that burning aspiration, burning desire to liberation. Now, how do you get that liberation? It is only when you have this wisdom you get it. So it works in two ways. One side, you say, unless you have wisdom, you cannot understand it. To pursue the truth, you need mumukshatva. Unless you know the truth, you cannot pursue it. One way. At the same time, to gain that knowledge itself, you need certain qualification. So it works on both sides. Meaning, to the extent you have wisdom, to that extent your mumukshatva will grow. To the extent you have mumukshatva, to that extent you will put an effort to pursue that truth, reality. The problem is we are ignorant of that reality. And that supreme reality which pervades, to contact that, you need to go within. Brahman is everywhere. But to relate to Brahman, you have to go within. There is no other way. Exactly like, he gives a beautiful example in the book. He says, the government pervades the entire country. But to contact government, you go to the capital, isn't it? Like the scriptures, they say, you know, you want to extract milk from cow, you have to go to, not to the tail, not to the horns. You see, same way. It's everywhere. But at the same time, to get it, you have to go to a particular only. The same way. The truth exists everywhere. That reality is everywhere, all pervading. But for you to connect to that reality, you need to go within. Now, that's where the problem is, it says. It shows that light of wisdom shows the way to shed your limited self and become the supreme self. That's what the subject is. That's what this chapter is all about. The chapter's essential purpose of this chapter is this: to help you to shed your belief with reference to your limited self. Because today you believe yourself to be this limited, constricted, restricted individuality, the little self. I am such a person, having certain height, weight, certain thoughts, certain knowledge, some emotions, mind, ideas, beliefs. This is what I am. Such a small person I am, you think. But the light of wisdom says you have to go. The ignorance of your true nature is the cause for you to be suffering in the samsara, the world. The life of trials and tribulations you are going through is because of this problem of life, is because of that disease. And Ramtirtha says there is but one disease and one cure. But the manifestation of the disease are very many. Remember that. The disease is one. The expressions of the disease will be many. How it expresses to one person is different from how it expresses to another person. So the light of wisdom straight away penetrates into what is that fundamental disease which we all suffer from. And the disease is what? Ignorance. Ignorance of? Yes, ignorance of what? Yes, not ignorance of a particular language, not the ignorance of a particular subject. It's not ignorance of physics or chemistry, mathematics, economics, accountancy. It's not that. Then what ignorance? Essential ignorance is ignorance of your real nature. That ignorance produces desires. That ignorance of your true nature. And in Vedanta, they give a very, very popular example for this. Follow the example carefully first. Reflect on that. Everyone who has studied Vedanta would know this example. Rope and snake. All that, subsequent lectures or subsequent classes, wherever you go, whenever they say rope and snake, you got to remember all this. See, where there is a rope, a boy treads over that and mistakes that rope to be a snake. Now he has the fear. He has a problem. And he comes to you for solution. You say, what is the solution you will give? What is the snake bite medicine you have to give now to that boy? You tie a rope around his leg and take that blood out and then take him to hospital, put him in ICU, give him this injections and that one, this one, all that will you do? Or you tell that boy, hey, that's a rope, man. And that boy will not believe you. The boy will say, what do you know? The snake is bitten me. I know that. I am suffering from that pain. It's the same situation for all of us. Where there is Brahman, truth, reality, we see the world. And for all of us, the world appears slightly more real than God, isn't it? Brahman. Between God and world, which appears real to you? Like in the house, you have living room, you have a hall, kitchen, this one, that one, all those things. And then along with that, you will have one puja room also, perhaps. Or else one puja cupboard. You put one cupboard. You push this cupboard in. And God, you push inside and say, what is this? This God is there, God is here, this, that, and all. Say, from where we are getting this confusion? This is what we are studying now. It's too much of a noise. So I'm getting, I'm forgetting what I'm saying, speaking actually. You can't shoo the kids away also. You can't say, hey, I'm teaching Vedanta, rope, snake and all, I'm explaining you. They'll say, idiot, go away. Now, follow this example carefully first. There is a rope. Now the boy is seeing a snake. You are seeing a rope. Now, obviously, there will be a fight between you two in establishing who is correct. The boy will keep on repeating, it's a snake. You will go on saying, it's a rope. There will not be any communication between you two. Same is the case for all of us. There is no communication between the master and the student. The guru goes on saying, there is Brahman. The student goes on saying, there is world. He goes on saying, there is God. We go on establishing there is samsara. Now, there is no communication possibility between the two. That's what they explain in that example, rope and snake. The rope and snake example gives us this idea of that. Who is correct now? For us, we are correct. For him, he is correct. Immediately, like all our TV shows, we'll say, he is correct from his point of view, you are correct from your point of view. Difference is what? Yeah, you are correct in your point of view. But then, the subsequent frustrations and agitations and delusions and disturbances that you experience, the stress and strain that you experience is a byproduct. If you believe the thing that you saw to be a snake, then you can't escape from the fear, from that snake bite, from that poison. It will sting, it will destroy you, it will kill you, it will agitate you. Since the master is seeing the rope, he is peaceful, he is blissful, he doesn't have the problem. Yes, you keep your view, let him keep his view. But remember, so long as you are seeing that as a snake, you cannot escape from fear, agitation. So long as you see the world, it is impossible for you to escape from this stress of life, from the frustrations of life. There is but one disease and one cure, says Ramatirtha. The disease is ignorance. Ignorance of what? What is that? Is it rope or is it snake? Now follow the example there. How does that happen? When the rope is there, because of the darkness, but remember, in every example, there are certain, inadequacies will be there. Remember, incompleteness will be there in every example. There is no example in the world which is foolproof. Okay. In that example, the darkness is existing outside the rope. There is a rope, there is darkness, there is a void. All three separate. Okay. But when you come to the concept, it is not the case. Right? So here when we say darkness, what we are referring to is ignorance. Remember, don't say darkness is outside. That's where the problem is. In any example, when you study, remember, there are only 1 or 2 points are comparable. If you stretch that example beyond that point, that comparison will break, will lead to absurdities. Like we always give the example, Chhatrapati Shivaji fought with Mughals like a tiger. Doesn't mean Chhatrapati Shivaji had a tail. Why? Tiger has a tail, no? Doesn't mean Chhatrapati Shivaji had stripes on his back. It's absurd. Then what is compared there? The comparison is the ferocity with which he attacked. A wounded tiger is more ferocious than a normal one. That is how he attacked. When a tiger, before it attacks, it hides and attacks. It will not come straight and come, Damal will not come and attack, he'll hide, he'll wait, and then pounce. Similarly, the strategies of Shivaji was like that. That's the comparison. Now you can't say, you only said, no, Shivaji was like a tiger. So that means what? He must be having a tail also. You mean to say Shivaji had a tail? Absurd that is. Similarly, this example also. Don't stretch it beyond this point. These comparisons were given to you to have only this much. Don't go beyond that. Of course, you can extend it a little here and there. It's like a rubber band. No? You can stretch it. There's always some elasticity will be there with reference to this, any example for that matter. Some elasticities are possible there. But at the same time, if you stretch beyond that, it will break. So it has a capacity and you can stretch it. You can stretch little more also. But if you go beyond it, it will break. So this example, follow carefully there. Rope was there because of the darkness. The boy trips over and gets scared, thinking it is to be a snake. So rope was there and darkness was there, and then he takes that rope to be snake. So he sees a snake. From where the snake comes? The snake came from the rope only. If there is no rope, there is no snake. You will never trip over a rope and mistake the rope to be tiger. That is not possible. You will not trip over that rope and say, this is a whale, blue whale. You will never do that. You see, you will misunderstand it as this. That's the only possibility. Same way, Brahman was there, reality is there. What is the proof? What is the definition of reality? Definition of reality is that which exists in the present, it has existed in the past, and it will continue to exist in the future as the same thing, without any changes. That which existed in the past, in the present, in the future, same is the reality. Now, definition of reality is that. And Brahman is real, you say. It existed in the past, it exists in the present. And we take ourselves to be what? Did you exist in the past? Before your birthday, did you exist? After your death day, will you exist? When was Ishwaran born? The day he came out of the womb? 1 hour before that, was he there or not? 1 day before that, was he there or not? 1 month? 5 months? 9 months? 1 year? Now, as we go backwards, you find what? Suddenly you come to some point where it becomes hazy. It becomes almost impossible for you to conceive. Yes, he was not there. Before 1973, where was he? July 15. July 15, 1972, where was Ishwaran? July 15, 1973, yes, he was there. Okay. June 15th, May 15th, you will say what? Yeah, I was there, but where, sir? Inside the womb. Okay. Before that? Before that? Where? Nowhere. Similarly, somewhere down the line, Ishwaran will disappear. And then what? Where did he go? That's why spiritual infants, child, can't digest the fact that that fellow disappeared. So we believe what? He is staying in some loka. If you like that fellow, you will say he is in Swarga Loka. If you don't like that fellow, you will say he must be in hell. That's all. If you like Ishvara, you will say he must be in some heaven. If you really like him, you will put him in 7th heaven. That's all. Right. It's only what? It's like, okay, he is not here. He has gone to New York. He has gone to Delhi. He has gone to Australia. Instead of being in Australia, he is there. That's all the differences. Like so many of your old friends, you won't even know where they exist, no? Isn't it? But you still believe what? They're saying they're still somewhere. But the problem is what? You can't contact them. That's all. Same way you believe. After death, the person goes and lives somewhere. You don't know. I'm not talking about even that. Even after 73, now your whole lifetime you take, were you the same? So today afternoon, what was your mood? Now in which mood you are? Different, no? Changed. The changes keeps on happening. And we all know one fact of life. That is, a change can be registered and recognized is possible only without a changeless backdrop. Without a reference to a changeless, a change can never be registered. Now, every one of us register changes happening outside, also changes happening inside. In the world, I see things changing constantly. Same way, I see changes happening in me also. The body changes. Yeah, you may not recognize it immediately. Yesterday and today you can't recognize. But when you see your photograph of 5 years back, 10 years back, there is a difference. Distinctly you can see. at least you will see gray hair, or you will see more dark hair. That means what? More dye. That's all it is. As you see more dark, as you age, it should get grayer. It should not get darker. You see, if a person gets, if a fellow were to be having, dark black hair when he is in 50s, that means what? Dye. That's all it is. You see, you can't have that. Changes. Now, there has to be something in you changeless. Without that reference of changeless, how is it possible for you to recognize the change? That is the wisdom. That is what Vedanta is. That is the light of wisdom. And the problem is your association with reference to the changing is so much so, you have forgotten completely the changeless entity. That's all it is. How is that the reality is misunderstood? How is it that rope is misunderstood as snake by that boy? Why? Because someone had told that boy, this area is infested with snakes. Right. In Manhattan, the fellow will never think of a snake. The trip or something, he will think that's a cable. He will not take it as rope. In Manhattan, if a fellow trips over and falls, he will take it as what? Fiber optic cable. He will not think of a snake there. Why? In Manhattan, you will not find snakes, but you will find cables more. Therefore, he thinks what? There must be some cable. It is that association, remember, due to your constant and consistent association with the equipments, with the world, you have forgotten the self and God. Whenever I use the word God, you take it as external God. Internalize the same thing becomes the self. That's all. It's the same thing. We use the word God outside. If you are plucking that and putting it outside, it is called God. The same thing put with reference to inside, it is called exactly like I am father with reference to my daughter. I am son with reference to my mother. When mother looks at me, son. Daughter looks at me, father. I am same. It's only the two different angles. You see, same way, God, self, Brahman, it's all same thing. Only thing is the context. World, God. You, self. That's all. Whenever you don't get, lost in that words, people keep fighting with the words. In fact, they get hold on to some word they catch up and start spinning around ideas. It's a waste of time, please. It won't help you. Don't get into the intellectual gymnasium, he says, Vivekananda. Gymnastics you guys do. This is not to be done, please. This rope and snake you get into, the confusion is that only one can exist. Remember this. Either rope or snake in the example. Or you change that, you can take it as either rope or cable. Only one can exist. Rope and snake cannot exist together. Similarly, God and world cannot exist parallelly. That's not possible. Either God or world. But for all of us, which is convenient? Our convenience is God is also there, world is also there. And what is the job of God? Job of God is to protect me from the onslaughts of the world. My security guard is God. So what is he is supposed to do? He is supposed to protect us from all the samsaric problems of life. All the problems of life. He is supposed to protect you. He is supposed to give you solutions. He is supposed to do all that. Which means what? This is also real. That is also real. Exactly like saying rope is also there, snake is also there. How delusive, how stupid that concept is. If a fellow were to come and tell you, rope is also there, snake is also there. Yeah, it is rope. See, from one angle you look at it, it is rope. From another angle you look at it, it is snake. You say, what? It is madness. Same madness is what we all go through. But when it comes to our aspect, we are very comfortable with it. And that's what he calls as ignorance. Remember, there's ignorance. It's not only that. The real ignorance in the rope and snake is not how the rope became snake, and it's not the proper point at all, actually. In another context, we'll explain that. There are stages and steps. How the rope had become the snake, and explaining that, and through that they explain illusion and creation and all those things. How the world came about, how the personality came about, that also they use. But that's not the context of that idea here. Here, when he says rope and snake, what he's referring to is the parallel existence we all believe in. God is also, world is also. Why? Because that is convenient for us to believe like that. When I say God is also real, world is also real, that is convenient for me. What is a convenience? Whenever I have problem with the world, I can run towards God. Whenever I get fed up with God, I can run towards world. So the option is available for us. This is why this knowledge is not given to non-adhikaris. Means non-qualified. Anadhikari we say. Adhikari means qualified student. Anadhikari means non. It's not taught to this non-adhikaris. Because the moment you misunderstand the ideas, you get into trouble. And it is very easy to misunderstand this. And what is the first casualties of misunderstanding? You stop performing karma. You stop performing your obligations. You stop performing your, fulfilling your obligations. And no one can break it. Remember, this is the problem of life. You go insane. When I say insane, I mean literally insane, not figurative. This non-performance of obligations will lead you to insanity. Same way, you act with result orientation, also you go insane. There are two ways people lead themselves into insanity. One group of people lead themselves into insanity is because of result-oriented action. Because what motivates you to perform action itself is what? Desires. And the cause of desire is what? Ignorance. It is that ignorance that produces the desires. And once you have the desires, you try to fulfill the desires innocently without realizing that by design, desire cannot be fulfilled. At least you should know that by experience. The tragedy is, even after experience, we don't realize it. What to call that, we don't know. That's what there's a saying, it goes, fools learn through their own experience, wise from others. But what to call a person, even after experience, not learning? What is that, sir? Means, in your life, how many desires you have attempted to fulfill, which you believed it got fulfilled, but resurface again. I'll give an example. I get the desire to smoke a cigarette. I pick up a cigarette and smoke, and I feel genuinely fulfilled. Correct? If it is fulfilled, if it is satiated, then by that very definition, fulfillment, satiation means it should not reappear, it should not resurface. But what is happening to all of us? Every desire that you have attempted to fulfill had resurfaced back. With what? What is ignorance? Ignorance is where you take that unreal to be real and the real to be unreal. That's called ignorance. What is ignorance? Unreal. This happens with reference to ideas. This happens with reference to emotions. This happens with reference to actions. With reference to actions also, you do the same thing. You take the non-obligations to be obligations and obligations to be non-obligations. The surface emotions to be deep emotions and the deep emotions to be a surface emotions. The real emotions to be unreal and the unreal. The benefactors were taken as malefactors and malefactors were taken as benefactors. Every aspect of your life you suffer. Why, sir? Because of this fundamental disease. You don't fulfill that. This ignorance is the disease. Manifests as very many desires. So many desires you have. Therefore, name, fame, following, wealth, power, status, etc. You can't, And what Vedanta says is, remember, there is no way that you can remove desires one by one. First, I'll remove this desire, then I'll remove that desire, then I'll remove this desire. You can't remove desires one by one. You got to remove desires en bloc. Whole thing you got to drop. Like how you dropped all the desires pertaining to childhood. So many desires you had during childhood, right? I want this, I want that. I had so many desires, I still remember. Sometimes I wonder whether I have actually dropped it or still there. Because still I get attracted towards those things. I had a terrific desire for toys. Toys. And peculiarly, I never liked a toy which is proper. Broken toys is more attractive to me than, proper ones. Very, peculiar things I had. And tremendous desire, so maddeningly was going on for a period of time in my life. Remember, collecting stamps. Today you give stamps, nothing happens. I don't know how many of you have played Monopoly game. to the completion. You see, because if you start a game, minimum it will take 1 month for you to complete that game. If you play every day for 5 hours, you know, you got to make that fellow absolutely lost, destroy that fellow completely. Till then, you got to play. Maddening, you are playing that. And playing cards. Playing cards was such a thing. Now, I get so many opportunities to play. You know, they keep asking me, and they play in front of me also. I'm sitting there looking at it, but there's no joy. There's no attraction. There's no desire to play that. All the desires. Did you drop the desires one by one? First, let me work with reference to the toys. Then let me work with reference to the stamps. Then with reference to the monopoly. Then with reference to the cards. Then with reference to carom board. Not that I don't play carom. Not that I don't play, chess. But that waiting for an opportunity, the desire for that. Did you drop it one by one? Or one day, all that you dropped parallel? Which way it works? That is why in the Vedas, they have two types of people. There are two aspects in the Vedas. One is called the Karma Kanda portion, another one is called the Jnana Kanda portion. Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda. They divide that into two sections. Veda. The Karma Kanda portion is this, where they deal desires one by one, unit by unit. Desire by desire, you knock off. Desire by desire, you knock off, fulfill. Knock off, knock off, knock off. This is one method. Another method is Jnana Kanda portion, where you knock off desires en bloc. That is Light of Wisdom chapter. Light of Wisdom chapter directs you to knock off desires en bloc. How? Go to the very root of it. You pluck that root, the whole thing is gone. All this manifestations of disease gone. The moment you have removed the germ, remove the virus, kill that virus, the whole thing is gone. Now, that's what he is giving here. Like you wake up from dream, all the problems that you would have experienced in the dream disappears straight away. It's not that one by one you do. That's the beauty of light. In the dark room, you move around, you will get knocked here, you will get a knock there, you get hit here, you get a hit there, you get a bruise here, you get a bruise there. You get knocked everywhere. The moment you bring in light, what happens to you? You don't have to remove all the furnitures. You don't have to change anything. You can find a path to get out without getting knocked by any one of them. If you have to walk over that, you walk over. You have to, circumvent and go, you circumvent and go. You can do everything. Let everything lie as they are. There's no necessity to change anything. All that you have to do is what? Bring in that light. And remember, the light is a reality. Darkness is not a reality. The problem for all of us is we treat the darkness also as a reality. See, darkness is not a reality. Like in mathematics, they say infinity. Is it a number? Like 1 crore is a number. That end, you keep traveling, go, keep moving. Where it ends there? What is the highest number that you can think of? Infinity. But infinity is not a number. What is the smallest you can think of? Zero. Zero is what? Still the debate is going on whether amongst the mathematicians, can you call zero a number? Because a number should have a value. Zero doesn't have any value. No value is called zero. Now, how can you call that as a number? But then the number system starts with what? Zero. Ends with what? Infinity. Both has nothing. Same way, light and darkness. Then what is it, sir? You say, we are somewhere in between. You say, you are neither in zero nor in infinity. You are in between. When you are in between, you have a choice to move. What is it? When you move this side, the previous one becomes negative point. When you move that side, this point becomes positive. That x-axis, y-axis they teach. That's all ignorances. That's what Vivekananda defines. What is the difference between knowledge and ignorance? He says, in a ladder, higher rung is called knowledge, lower rung is called ignorance. Wherever I stand, the higher is knowledge, the lower is ignorance. And what is very interesting about this is, in this understanding of light to be knowledge and darkness to be ignorance is, whenever you tell a person in the dark room, you tell him remove darkness, what he does? Switch on the light. Tell him bring in darkness, what he does? Switch off the light. To remove darkness, you switch on the light. To bring in darkness, you switch off the light. What is interesting is, you do something with reference to light. As a consequence, what you get is darkness, presence, or absence. But you can never work on darkness directly. Isn't it? You can't work on darkness. You work only with reference to light. Why? Because light is a reality. You do something with reference to reality. As a consequence, what you get is darkness, presence, or darkness, absence. But directly, you can't work with reference to darkness. You can't deal with darkness at all. That's the thing. Now, what is that darkness that you are stuck with? Ignorance that you are stuck with is you have no understanding of your real nature. You are that supreme reality. You are the truth. You recognize the truth. You understand that as Sat Chit Ananda. Existence, knowledge, bliss. Says. Now, that ignorance is the cause for your suffering. All that you have to do is remove that ignorance. That's it. Now, you can't remove with ignorance. You can't fight with ignorance directly. So what you have to do? Bring in the light of wisdom, he says. So you suffer because of ignorance, but you can't do anything with reference to ignorance directly. You can work only with reference to knowledge. When you work with knowledge, ignorance exists or ignorance disappears. Therefore, it is light of wisdom. Bring in the light, he says. Then he moves to the next idea. So, okay, now how do we bring in that light? How do we bring in that wisdom? Now here you need to have. Now in some contexts, when we use the term knowledge and wisdom, we refer it as synonymous terms, similar terms. You can replace knowledge and wisdom as the same thing. Now here we need to create a slight distinction. We'll say ignorance, knowledge, wisdom. I repeat, in this topic of how to gain wisdom, when we study ignorance different, knowledge different, wisdom is different. Generally, when we are studying, we will say knowledge, wisdom, similar terms only. There's no big difference. It's the same thing. Gain the knowledge of the self. When we say, what we are referring to is gain that wisdom of the self. In the course of conversation, we keep using it as interchangeable, those terms. But in this context, specifically what you need to understand is these two. That knowledge is different, this wisdom is different. Ignorance is the base. So first thing is, if you want to gain wisdom, what you need to do first? He asks. In the first step itself, we will find a majority people will fail. Whole world will fail in that. In fact, when I say majority, what I mean is 99.9%. That's called majority. Don't say, 51-49. 51-49 is not the majority. Majority here means what, sir? 99% out. We all feel in that. What is the failure? Says Josh Billings explains that. He says the trouble with most folks is not so much so their ignorance as their knowing so many things which ain't so. The trouble with people, the problem with people is not their ignorance actually, he says. Then what is the problem? The problem is they believe they know. The belief that you carry that you know when you don't know, that is called ignorance. I repeat. Ignorance. What is ignorance, sir? Ignorance is this knowledge and ignorance, are very, very, contradicting things there. Very confusing that is. The ignorance means when I don't know, I believe I know. I don't know, but I believe I know. That belief is what he calls as real ignorance. Not knowing is not the real problem, he says. So he says people suffer in the world. They believe, people think, I don't know, therefore I'm suffering. You don't suffer because of that. You suffer in your life in all the areas. No exception. More and more I see people, more and more I interact with them. Every time people come to me, there is a problem, sir. They have an agitation, they have stress, they have this, they have that. Everywhere there is only one thing. Same rule. That's what Ramtirtha says. There is but one disease. We don't have to hear what you are saying, what you have to say. Straight away, what is it? The belief that you know. This belief is the problem. Believe what? Believe that I know. And the best part is, since you believe you know, it looks so confusing to us. See, I'm correct only. But then why I have to suffer? Why I am stressed? Why I am suffering? Why there is misery? Why there is So much of pain in my life. It looks too correct. How can this happen? It should not happen like that. No. But then I have this problem. Now, why? From where it is coming, sir? Disease. The ignorance. And what is so interesting is about ignorance is more the ignorance in you, stronger will be the belief in you to think you know. Supposed to see it. More ignorant you are, more eloquent you will be. You can take Vedanta class for 1 hour comfortably when you don't know Vedanta. When you know Vedanta, you can't talk for 1 hour. You will say what? Tattvamasi and walk out. In fact, you won't even say that. You will keep quiet. You don't know. That's what these Upanishadic masters, they say. We don't know. I don't know how to teach, he says. The Upanishadic teacher, he says, that master, he says, fascinating one to read. Every class I get scared to speak because with what confidence we speak, whereas the Upanishadic master, he says, we don't know how to teach this to you. And ideal student and ideal teacher, perfect teacher and a perfect student sitting there. To the perfect student, that perfect teacher says, I don't know how to teach you this. Here we are, comfortably we talk. And you give me time, I will talk of more also. 1.5 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. You can go on talking, no problems. Why? More ignorant you are, more eloquent you will be. See, that's the law of life. Very strange. Because he believes that. See, whereas the man of wisdom, always with few words, not much. As you go to Ramana for any problem, you will say what? Only one thing. Entire teaching of Ramana is what? Only one. Who am I? Entire teaching of Swamiji is what? Intellect. Ramana had 3 words. He reduced it. Why 3? 3 is too much. He says what? 1. What is it? Build intellect. 2 words maximum. There's nothing. There's no other teaching. Now, what is that he's saying? Same thing. Build intellect. That's it. Build your intellect. Problem solved. This ignorance, when you don't know something, or when you know very little, it's very interesting to study that. I'll explain in the next class more in detail. But fortunately, we'll see it day after, so you don't have much time to get confused. But let me try my best to confuse you. That's all, not to provide clarity now. You see, confuse you. That's all it is. Because what you people should understand is, I can supply what I have. I can't supply to you people what I don't carry. What I carry is only confusion. So you come to me, you will get only confusion. Clarity, you go to some other source. Right? Deeper the ignorance, thicker the ignorance, stronger the belief in you that you know. So what is knowledge and what is ignorance? Not the number of information, remember. That's what we all think. We all believe when I have a lot of information, lot of words, that is called knowledge. No. That's not referred as knowledge, please. In philosophy. You see, it's not that. In the other subjects, more words you have, that's called knowledge. More information you carry, that is called knowledge. When it comes to life, when it comes to philosophy, here, knowledge is not that, not information. Then what is knowledge here? What is ignorance? Any understanding that I have unsuspected, that is called ignorance. When I suspect my understanding, that is called knowledge. What is ignorance? Ignorance is equal to unsuspected understanding. I have understood you. I know you are like that. I am refusing to even suspect it. That's the sign of ignorance. It appears to me you are of that type. You look like that to my eyes, but I'm not sure. That's called knowledge. Generally, you understand this generally first. Now here you take it as same. Wisdom, knowledge, same thing. Okay? In this, first get this understanding. What is ignorance? What is knowledge? Ignorance is not lack of information. We take ignorance to be lack of information. That is in the other subject. When I don't know Pythagoras theorem, I am ignorant of it. I don't know how to do this bank reconciliation statement. That is ignorant. I don't know what is stock market. Information. Lack of information is ignorance. Having information, knowledge. This is in other subjects. Now, when you come to philosophy, the things changes because we are discussing about life. In the discussion of life, ignorance is not that. Ignorance is I refuse to suspect my understanding of anything, any field. That is why you see people like Einstein saying all my calculations are arbitrary, not perfect. What is my knowledge compared to my ignorance? So to him, the horizon of ignorance is vast. For you and me, what is the horizon of ignorance? Not much. You see, that is why a science teacher is far more eloquent than a scientist. Have you seen that? You speak to a scientist, right? He's not so eloquent. Whereas the science teacher is very eloquent. There's no problem at all for him. That's the difference. That ability to suspect my understanding is the first step to gain wisdom. That is not possible for us. Now, how many of, because that demands a tremendous courage to challenge, to suspect my understanding could be wrong. May not, I'm not saying it has to be wrong. I'm not saying it is you don't come to conclusion that I am wrong. No, that is also not correct. That is also what, sir? You have concluded. No, it's not concluding, yes, I am wrong. No. That conclusion also could be wrong. You see, I don't know is not that. My ability to suspect is my understanding complete? Is my understanding correct? Or there are other aspects to it. There's something more to it. This suspicion, if you have with reference to your understanding, that is called knowledge. When you are not having any suspicion with reference to whatever you have understood, that's called ignorance. I think now I can go to sleep peacefully, having confused all of you. Right. Today I will get a good sleep. So, today's job is done. We'll see that. I'll explain more in the next class. We'll see how do you gain wisdom. That's the catch. Is that how do you develop that? Okay. I'll see you in the next class, day after. Thank you.